Welcome to IAS project. In this video, let's talk about Vedangas. The word Vedangas basically has two words within it, Veda and Anga. Veda simply means knowledge and Anga is nothing but the organ. So the Vedangas can also be called as organs of the Vedas. And these Vedangas are basically the last treatises of Vedic literature. It simply means they are nothing but the last part of Vedic literature. Please note that I am not using the word Veda. I am using the word Vedic literature here because Veda mainly has four parts. They are nothing but Veda Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. Vedangas are not a part of Vedas. They are a part of Vedic literature. We know that Vedas were nothing but Shruti literature. Shruti literature simply means the literature that is directly heard from the universe. Whereas Vedangas form the part of Smriti literature. Smriti literature means literature that is remembered. Generally, if we talk about the importance of Shruti literature and Smriti literature from the point of view of Hinduism, then importance of Shruti literature is always greater than importance of Smriti literature. That is why generally most of the philosophies and philosophical schools derive their ancestry or origins from Shruti literature. They say that this philosophy is true because it has been written in Vedas. When you say something has been written in Shruti literature, then that thing has authority and many people believe it. Compared to Shruti literature, Smriti literature has less authority. We have many types of literatures in Smriti literature. For example, Vedangas are Smriti literature. Other than Vedangas, we also have epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, and we also have Manusmriti, Arthashastras, Dharmashastras, Dharmasutras and all those works. All these works are basically Smriti literature. Vedangas are very important for the study of Vedas. We have 6 Vedangas. They are nothing but Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarna, Nirukta, Chandas and Jyotisha. So the English meanings have already been given here. Shiksha is nothing but pronunciation or phonetics, whereas the Vedanga of Kalpa deals with ritual. Vyakarna deals with grammar. Nirukta deals with etymology. Chandas deal with meter. I will explain what meter is shortly. Jyotisha deals with astronomy. You know all these words except I think etymology and meter. Etymology simply means origin and meaning of the words. Meter simply means number of syllables in a line of a poem. From the point of view of our exam, Vedangas are not that important. That is why we will not go into depth of all these Vedangas, but we will quickly look what are all these Vedangas. I told you that Shiksha is basically phonetics or pronunciation, and Shiksha Sutras basically deal with the correct pronunciation of Vedic texts. So whatever has been written in the Vedic texts, if you want to pronounce correctly, then you need to study Shiksha Sutras. The word sutra is new for us. Let me tell you what is sutra. So what exactly are sutras? Sutras are nothing but a collection of aphorisms. Let me further describe this. Sutras are basically rules or formulas that are written in short, precise and in a memorable manner. And these sutras are written in prose style. They are not poetry. We know that Vedas are poetry. However, the Shiksha Sutras are prose. In fact, all the sutras are actually written in prose style. You may find some exceptions, but generally when we say sutras, we are talking about prose style. Prose in Hindi is called as Gadya. So when we say Shiksha Sutra, then we are talking about the rule or formula that is written in prose style about Shiksha, that is nothing but phonetics or pronunciation. I hope you understood what is Sutra, because we will be using this in many places. For example, we have Shiksha Sutra here. In a few minutes, we will also learn that there is something called as Kalpa Sutra. We also have what is called as Dharma Sutra, Vyakarna Sutra and so on. In all these, what you need to understand, whenever there is Sutra, it simply means that that text has been written in prose style. It has not been written in poetry style. Moreover, the word sutra also means that the text is basically having rules and formula. So Shiksha Sutra is written in prose style. It has rules and formulas regarding Shiksha. Shiksha is nothing but phonetics or pronunciation. Similarly, Kalpa Sutra has rules and formulas that have been written in prose style regarding Kalpa. Kalpa is ritual. Similarly, Dharma Sutra, Vyakarana Sutra and any other sutra also you can understand its meaning. I hope you have understood what sutra means. Now let's go further. Shiksha is considered as the most important part of all these 6 Vedangas. Why? Because if you are not properly pronouncing the words that are mentioned in the Vedas, then whatever the Vedic prayers you are saying, they will not be useful. It means that these Vedic prayers have to be done in exact pronunciation or using exact phonetics as per Shiksha Sutra. Otherwise, they will not be fruitful. The second Vedanga is Kalpa. Kalpa simply means ritual. And this ritual is mainly intended for the proper application of Vedic texts. So what happens is, just like how pronunciation is very important in the case of prayers, the way you are doing the ritual is also important if you want to get the results. If you do not do the ritual in the proper manner, then also you will not get the desired result from that sacrifice. So that is where Kalpa Sutras come in. Kalpa Sutras mainly contain the rules referring to the sacrifices. We know that in Brahmanas and Aranyakas, we have rules that are required for the sacrifices. Brahmanas are mainly having the rules for the sacrifices from the point of view of Grihastha, which means that Brahmanas are useful when you are conducting sacrifices in the villages, whereas Aranyakas are associated themselves with the sacrifices that are done in Vanaprastha stage of life. We have already talked about Vanaprastha and Grihastha previously. So that is why we can say Kalpa Sutras are directly connected to Brahmanas and Aranyakas, because all these 3 entities mainly deal with the rules referring to sacrifices. So within the Kalpa Sutras, there are basically 4 types of Kalpa Sutras. And we know that Sutra means it has been written in prose style. Please note at this point that in some books, it has been written as 3 types. Let me explain you what is the difference here. Okay. The first type of Kalpa Sutra is Shrauta Sutras. And the second type has been called as Griha Sutras. And the third one is Dharma Sutras. Some authors also call that there is a 4th type which is called as Shulba Sutras. But most of the authors state that Shulba Sutras are basically a sub part of Shrauta Sutras. That is why in case there is a mains question where you need to write about Kalpa Sutras, then you will consider that there are only 3 types of Kalpa Sutras, and within these 3 types there is Shrauta Sutra, within which there is a sub part called as Shulba Sutras. Okay, these are not very important from the point of view of exam. That is why let's cover this topic very quickly. Shrauta Sutras mainly deal with Shrauta sacrifices. Shrauta sacrifices are basically those kind of sacrifices that are very, very important. For example, we have Soma sacrifice, animal sacrifice, full moon sacrifice and new moon sacrifices. So since all these sacrifices are very important, they are called as Shrauta sacrifices. And Shrauta Sutras basically have the rules that are associated with Shrauta sacrifices. Let's talk about Shulba Sutras. Shulba Sutras deal with the rules of measurement of fire altars. These are also associated with mathematics, mainly geometry. So we can say Shulba Sutras are actually the ancient Indian or the ancient Hindu works on mathematics. Next we have Griha Sutras. Griha Sutras mainly have rules regarding domestic ceremonies. For example, marriage ceremony, funeral ceremonies, such things. And finally we have Dharma Sutras. Dharma Sutras mainly have rules and regulations related to religious and social laws. We will talk more about Dharma Sutras when we discuss Mahajanapadas. At this point, let me tell you that there is something called as Dharma Shastras also. The main difference between Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras is one thing. Sutras are written in prose style, whereas Shastras are written in poetry style. So this is the main difference between Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. Otherwise, there is not much difference. Actually, what happened was, initially Dharma Sutras were composed. After that, people started to give it a poetry style. And then such Dharma Sutras basically became Dharma Shastras. So Dharma Shastras also deal with religious and social laws. However, these are Shastras, that is why they are in poetry style. Please note that there are also some exceptions in the explanation I have given you. But generally, Sutras are in prose style and Shastras are in poetry style. Otherwise, Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras have the same content or have the same information within them. That is nothing but they deal with religious and social laws. The next Vedanga is Vyakarana. Vyakarana simply means grammar. And grammar is very important for understanding the Veda because grammar basically helps us in arranging the words properly. In fact, we do not have the original Vedanga texts on Vyakarana because these are basically lost in time. They are not surviving. However, the most important source of Vyakarana Vedanga is Ashtadhyayi. Ashtadhyayi is a Sanskrit grammar book that has been written by Panini. Please note, this is very important. At the same time, we must note that Ashtadhyayi was written by Panini after Vedic period. So he did not write it during the early Vedic period or later Vedic period. But whatever the case is, Ashtadhyayi is the oldest Vyakarana Vedanga that is surviving today. Panini was Sanskrit grammarian who was living in ancient India. He lived almost around 2500 years ago. This is nothing but Mahajanapada period. And when Panini wrote Ashtadhyayi, he made the rules of grammar. That is why, because of Panini's scientific theory of grammar, what happened was, now there was a rules based Sanskrit or a Sanskrit based on grammar. And this Sanskrit is called as classical Sanskrit. So previously there was Vedic Sanskrit, and when Panini composed Ashtadhyayi, now there was a new Sanskrit which was called as classical Sanskrit, and this classical Sanskrit satisfies the conditions of grammar that have been mentioned in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. If we talk about ancient India and ancient Sanskrit grammar, then we have to definitely know about three sources. The first source is Ashtadhyayi by Panini, and then the second source is Katyayana's Vartikakara. Vartikakara is basically an elaboration of Panini's grammar book, and Vartikakara has been written by Katyayana. Please remember this fact also. And another important source is that Patanjali wrote a Bhashya. Bhashya is nothing but a commentary. So how it works is, you take an original work. Okay. For example, Patanjali took the original work that was written in Ashtadhyayi, and you write a commentary about this original work. Then that commentary is called as Bhashya. So when Patanjali took the original work of Panini, that is Ashtadhyayi, and then he wrote his own Bhashya or commentary, that Bhashya was called as Mahabhashya. Please remember this also. So here three facts are important. Panini wrote Ashtadhyayi, Katyayana wrote Vartikakara, and Patanjali wrote Mahabhashya. Moreover, Panini's Ashtadhyayi is also written in the form of Sutras. As I told you, Sutras means prose work, and it is basically having rules. The next Vedanga is Nirukta. Nirukta simply means etymology. Etymology is nothing but the explanation of meaning and the origin of the words. So the Nirukta Vedanga explains why a particular word has been used in the Vedas. So basically Nirukta is like a dictionary. And why is the Nirukta or the dictionary important? It is important because without that Nirukta, we cannot understand precisely what is the meaning of the words that is written in the Vedic stanzas, and also what is the meaning of the entire stanza. Many of the Niruktas are actually not surviving today. Only one Nirukta, which was composed by Yaska, survives today. And this Yaska's Nirukta is also called as Nighantu. Nighantu also simply means dictionary. So using this Nighantu written by Yaska, we can understand the meaning of the words that are there in the Vedas. The next Vedanga is Chanda, and Chanda simply means meter. Please note that this is not the meter that is used for measuring length. So what we are saying is about poetic meters, and Chanda is basically the study of poetic meters. If you want to understand what is a meter, Chandas or meters are basically the number of syllables in a line of Vedic poem. So let's say there is a stanza and it has, let's say, 4 pada or 4 lines. And what you do is you divide it into syllables. For example, it can have 8 syllables or 11 syllables or something else. So depending on that, you can talk about the chanda of the stanza. And chanda is important because they are particularly designed for the purpose of securing as well as proper reading and reciting of Vedic texts. Initially, Vedas were not written anywhere. They were transmitted through oral recitation. It means that Acharyas were mainly teaching the Shishyas by recitation. So this knowledge has been transferred from generation to generation for almost 3000 years. So when such knowledge is transmitted over thousands of years by oral recitation, it is possible that some words are added or some words are removed. So in order to avoid these kind of mistakes, Vedas were having the system of chandas. or we can say system of meters, where each line was having a definite number of syllables. So chandas or meters are very important, because without these meters it would have been almost impossible to transmit the knowledge of the Vedas from generation to generation. So these chandas or meters basically act like a checking system. So chandas and meters were first used in Vedas. But in the case of later literature also, for example in the case of Ramayana, Mahabharata and Puranas also, these chandas and meters have been developed even further and they have been used properly. If we talk about the sutras that are related to Chanda, we have Chanda Sutra that has been composed by Pingala. This is important from the point of view of prelims. The last part of Vedanga is Jyotisha. Jyotisha simply means astronomy. Please note that the objective of Jyotisha is not to teach the astronomy, but its objective is mainly to decide what is the muhurtam, or let's say what is the muhurat of the Vedic sacrifices. So the Jyotisha Vedanga mainly helps us to understand the movement of heavenly bodies. When we say heavenly bodies, we are basically talking about sun, moon, planets and all these. So depending on the position of sun, moon, planets and all these, we can decide what is the right time and what is the right hour for conducting the Vedic sacrifices. So this is where the Jyotisha Vedanga comes in. However, we do not have any old or ancient sutras of Jyotisha Vedanga today. But during the later times, Bhaskaracharya, Varahamihira and Aryabhatta were very famous scientists in India, and these people mainly discuss the topic of mathematics and astronomy. And using these topics, they also got the knowledge of movement of sun, moon, planets and other celestial objects. So this is about the Vedangas. These are not very important compared to Vedas as far as our exam is concerned. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project, and you can find the link for this channel in the description section below. Thank you.